Hi, guys. Hope you are doing well. Welcome to the second part of this episode. If you have missed the first one, please make sure to watch that first. The link is down in the description so that you know you are well tuned and on the same page. Because as you know, my interviews or our interviews rather are framed around a storyline wherein we start from the very beginning of the journey of a student, right from their parameters for selecting a country to the application process, any scholarship tips, packing tips, then flight booking ideas, the immediate processes one has to do once landing into the country. So you are on the same page with us and you don't miss out upon anything. So please make sure to watch this as well, and then we can bounce back to this part. And for those of you who have already been there for the first part, welcome back. And so let's begin the second part of this episode. Hope you enjoy it and find value in it. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that you get more such informational videos, and also to spread the word with your friends and family. If you think who might get benefited from such videos, please do share the word, and do not forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. The handles are the Student Insights Podcast. Please make sure to follow me on both the handles because it's there where I put some additional content, useful links for students, which might help you guys. So please make sure to follow me. The links have been mentioned down in the description. Please hit the follow button, like, share, and subscribe. See you at the end. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And did you follow
Yeah.
accommodation? Did you finalize your place before even reaching states, or did you first go to some of your friend's house or somewhere else, and then you look for properties, and then you booked one?
Hmm. No, I actually did it from India. That was a challenge, honestly, because again, I found my room Facebook. So if you're going to UT Austin, there will be at least 8 pages about UT Austin roommate finder, Austin room sublet, rooms lease. So there are a lot of these pages, and people keep posting if somebody's room is free, somebody needs a roommate, and most commonly you would want to live with a student. I don't want to live with a really older person or a very younger person. So I looked on the college group chat to see if there are any students around campus who need a roommate. And luckily, I found one. She put pictures of her flat, and she told me this is going to be the rent. If you like it, we'll do a background check. The landlord will do a background check, which is pretty standard. They're very cooperative with everything. They know that you're also really far away. You have to pay the deposit in advance, and I also signed the lease in advance. Yeah.
Okay, but online, but sometimes you end up being scammed because you're not in the
Mm,
place, you cannot see the apartment in person, so it might be
mm,
somebody else. So, what are your tips to kind of yourself be cautious while looking online when how to
mm,
test it? Because I know there's the ways if you
yeah,
have a friend
mm,
around that person can go and check on the property, but if there's
mm.
nobody, what are your tips for not getting in the hands of a scamster?
Definitely video call, talk or WhatsApp call with the landlord, with the person. And when they're doing it, when they say that you're doing a background, they are doing a background check. It's almost always legit because you're giving them a lot of information, and they do take their time and get back to you. Students would be very safe. I'd say I obviously checked her Facebook profile. I checked her, Instagrams. I made sure that she's a normal person who is like good family and she's studying at UT. So do your background checks like you do on social media. But if you are worried about that, if you even see a single red flag, I would definitely say stop over at a Airbnb or something or your friend's place maybe for 2 days
Okay.
and spend those 2 days looking at other flats. Like schedule home visits. They're not very far away in most college towns, so it won't be such a hassle.
And like, what are your views? You straightly went for an off-campus accommodation. So, what are your views on on-campus or off-campus? What is more better and beneficial for somebody?
Definitely off campus because off campus is way cheaper. Like on campus, even UT Austin, which is such a big university, it has on campus accommodations.
Hmm.
But I think most of them are used by freshmen, like students who are just like turned 18 and they spend their first years and on campus, make friends, and get to know the new independent life. And then most of them move out as well. So I didn't want to stay with undergraduate students, and most graduate students live off campus.
Okay, and how is the public transport there? Because you have to go and fro to places. So how does the process work? And is there any special discounts for students, say for a bus ride card or on the subways, any in that sorts?
It was free.
Free.
It was free. So UT Austin, the moment. Oh yeah, the third thing. Sorry, the two things that I got when I reached UT Austin was my bank account, or my debit card, my phone SIM card, and my college ID card. Because with the ID card, you can ride any of the buses for free. So if you want to go to the grocery store, you just open up an app, check which bus goes to the grocery store from your house, and you just swipe your student ID card. So the university pays for it. So all of the bus rides were free. If you get into the wrong bus, it's totally fine. You get off and get into a new bus. Yeah. Also, they also have some night lift ride collaboration, where if you're staying back in the college like very late at night, Lyft will drop you if your house falls in one of the zones.
Is it,
So that is free as well.
or do you have to pay a certain amount for that, or it's like a normal taxi service?
No, it's Lyft is similar to Uber, which is so you call for a Lyft. They will see that you are you're a student, you are at UT Austin, you have this promo code, and they will drop you to your house for free.
Okay,
It's exactly like Uber. Yeah.
how safe is it for a person to be? Of course, safety is in our own hands, but on general, how safe is it to like roam around in the after hours?
It is pretty safe, but it doesn't hurt to be very cautious. Like, just for your own sanity, don't go to secluded places. Don't go check out an alley all alone in the dark. I never personally had it. Sorry, cut this. I have never personally experienced it, but and none of my friends have. But I think mugging is common. They would, like, you wouldn't be physically hurt, but they can take your backpacks and stuff. If somebody comes across you, they take your backpack and your wallet. It's absolutely on you. Go in groups, go wherever you are. Go in groups. If you're going alone, send your location to a friend. But it's not advisable at all to walk alone in the night, just generally, because there are very fewer pedestrians in general. Like, most of them have their cars. So if you're on the road, you're literally all alone. That is common.
Yeah, that's true. And but on the road, did you find any culture shock for yourself when you went there? Like, you had expected something else and it turned out to be something else, or any incidents, any anecdotes you remember from your early days?
The first was the food. The food is huge. So there's this funny saying in Texas, everything is big in Texas, and it is so true. It's like the food portions are my three portions. When I was in India, I used to eat this much food, and yahan pe the one meal is this much. So I would eat like a little part of it and take it home, eat it for breakfast and lunch, just because I'm not used to eating that much food in one sitting. Now I can. After 3 years, that is my one portion. So that is like, you wouldn't even realize how that happens, but you start eating so much in one meal. So the portions are huge. The fountain drinks are horrible. Like, I miss India's thumbs up and Coke, for real. Like, you don't get the same soft drinks. They're just loaded with sugar. And you know how much we love McDonald's in India? I love McDonald's. You don't go in McDonald's here. It's just not good food.
Indian
But
McDonald's, something else, that's for sure.
really good. I know.
That's what,
And the one thing I was very surprised with is that people are so kind. Like, every single person I've met at UT Austin or even outside, they've gone out of their way to help you.
okay, that's
Like,
good.
some people are just nasty, but the major part of it are very, very kind. They will go out of their way to help you. They will mentor you. They'll answer your questions. They're very helpful. Absolutely.
That
I was
was
very surprised.
question, like, how easy is it for somebody to strike a conversation with a stranger, or do you feel alienated there?
I think it was easy in Austin, because Austin is just generally warmer. There's this thing about Southern hospitality that they say,
Mm.
and people are very, very warm in Austin. So it's common to walk by somebody, smile and say what's up. And I was like, that's a conversation. You don't answer that WhatsApp. You just say, "Hey, what's up? How are you doing? What's happening?" And then walk away. So it's
Okay.
very common to smile at strangers, ask them how their day is going, and all those things. But I don't think that is common in other cities. Not that much. I don't talk to strangers that much. But in Austin, it was very easy to strike a conversation. They want to talk to you. They want to ask how it's going. Yeah.
And how's the general weather? And say somebody is planning to coming to Austin, is it more on the warmer side or it is more fluctuation? So what this is kind of related to packing stuff. So
Yeah.
because weather determines what things you need to take along. So how is the general weather there?
Absolutely. Hmm. So Austin is really hot, especially when I went there in August. It was burning hot, dehydrating hot.
Uh,
Like Mumbai hot is humid hot, where you just like sweating and your clothes are wet. But Austin hot is like I will faint right now hot, because so you have to constantly sip on water. Like everywhere I went, I had to have like a coffee, water, boba tea, something in my hand to
mm,
constantly hydrate myself. I think the months from say March to August are insanely hot. After October to April are pretty pleasant, but not cold. It doesn't snow. It doesn't really snow.
okay. So it's like a pleasant
Yeah,
to hot,
it's
but
pleasant to hot. Yeah,
okay, okay.
correct.
That's
Yeah.
that's good.
So I
And
took my Mumbai wardrobe there.
yeah,
Yeah, no
that's
changes.
so. Did you feel homesick, like, was it the first time staying away from your family, or were you away for a certain time before this?
I lived away for 4 months before I lived in Kolkata, but I was not homesick. But that's also just because that's the person that I am. There are some people who can be really homesick. It doesn't strike you immediately. So
Yeah,
because when you get there, you're all excited to explore, to learn, to meet new people. But after a while, do you realize that you have to do everything on your own, and the course gets difficult, and you're kind of struggling with the assignments and stuff, you may get homesick. It is different for different people. I did get a little homesick, but thankfully I was very close to friends. Like all of my friends were living close by to me. I was constantly in touch with my family. My mother used to video call me twice a day. Not audio call, video call
video
twice
calls.
a day. So yeah, that kind of offsetted a little bit of the homesickness.
Yeah, yeah. That actually
Yeah.
helps. Initially, you kind of need that because it's like
Mm.
initially, as you mentioned, when you once you reach there, you're very excited. You everything is new for you,
Yeah.
small child. You get excited with the small
Mhm.
things, and once you settle down,
Yeah.
when the reality hits you hard, that okay, now I'm alone.
Yeah.
I did everything on my own.
Yeah.
So many things into that.
Yeah.
That's true about homesick.
Yeah.
Well, I also was like, especially being a boy, I wasn't homesick anytime. All that was my first time
Hmm.
away from my family
Hmm.
for such a long time. But my mom used
Hmm.
to not call me twice a day, just once on a Sunday. That's just a 1 hour call, and then
No, oh my God, how did you not have any contact with your parents?
oh, why would you continue
I
chat?
mean, it was kind of what?
We used to continue to chat on WhatsApp, but video calls
Right, right.
one time thing in a week.
Yeah.
It was not.
Yeah.
It was we just chat a good
I
morning.
think.
That's regular.
Oh no, I think my video calls were more like she would ask me, show me what you made, show me what how your house is looking, show me how you decorated your room. Then I would ask her, what did you make? So it's just nice. I feel like I am there because she shows me the house. She shows me. So it's a little like feeling in touch with everything. That's why video call, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a small things which can make a big
Mm.
difference there, and then
Very big, yeah.
very big. And once you start getting
Yeah.
into the system, what were the immediate things? Like you mentioned, the first year actually went by learning what is the
Hmm.
study pattern, what do the professors expect? Because with my as well
Hmm.
experience, I believe the professors expect as much as you deliver to them. So it's me who
Absolutely.
what is my best and what all
Yeah.
kind of input into it. So what is the difference that you found in the overall study pattern there?
A lot of it. So, as you said very correctly, that professors will give back just as much as they get from you. So,
Mm,
it is absolutely on you to book appointments with the professor during his office hours, reach out to him if you're finding something difficult. And they understand. They do understand that you don't come from the same learning background, you don't have the same context because urban planning is very context related.
Yeah.
American planning is new to me, so you have to reach out to them. They will help you through it. They will direct you to new readings or some videos or something that could help you understand. They're extremely helpful, but you have to go that extra mile for sure to make sure that you are on, along with everybody on the path.
Yeah, and you just mentioned about reaching out to professors. Like, what exactly do you mean to reaching out to professors? Are the professors not available all the time, or how does the
Mm.
communication with the professors work outside their classes?
So all professors have their office hours. It will be like one of the 2 days of a week for 3 hours. You just have to they'll have it on their website. Please book an appointment if you have a brief on what you want to talk about. Put it or just drop into my office and we'll talk. And apart from that, even TAs have their own office hours. So
Oh,
if you are kind of nervous to talk to the professor directly, you can also book an appointment with a teaching assistant and ask that person all your questions. They're absolutely available at every place. Most colleges, I don't know how other colleges had all of their coursework, but there's something called Canvas for UT Austin, where
mm,
all of your coursework is there. So that is where your readings will be. That's where you can upload your assignments. That's where you will know what's going to happen in the next class. That's where you'll find all the, attachments or web links and everything. So that's like a go-to place for everything you need for your courses.
that's great. And as for architecture and interiors, it's kind of a hands-on. All the urban planning, it's more about policies. But are there any
Yeah.
workshops and any equipments at your disposal? So if you want to make a model for a presentation or you need to build something, do you have anything of that
Mm-hmm.
sort at the university?
Yes. So there's something called Tech Lab where they have the 3D printers. They have regular printers, a lot of them. There is all of the tools that you would require to make your model. If you want to spray paint in like a place, there are all of those equipment. The most colleges have that, and UT also has great infrastructure for their architecture and urban design models.
That's great. That's great. And actually,
Yeah,
that actually helps in kind of having an hands-on experience. And I think
yeah.
most study there is approached in a practical way and not just theory,
Mm-hmm.
mugging up and then just writing an exam scoring
No,
scores. It's
there's no room for that. If you don't understand it, you're gonna fail. Period. The only way to complete your assignment is to actually understand it, to be able to answer it.
And the
Mm.
concept of plagiarism is actually something new, especially, if you have
Mm.
used to just copying and pasting and then just getting marks. That is something new. You have to get
Mm-hmm.
that, okay, once you upload it to the university website, you turn in the submission, it actually tells you, okay, this much percentage is similar to an existing
Yeah.
or anything that's submitted before that. So that is something new for us in
Mm.
terms of cultural shock as well, in terms of
Yeah.
education we talk about. And then
Correct.
what's the scope about part-time jobs on the university campus or off? So how does that thing work?
So during your first year, when you take admission as a graduate student, during the first year, you cannot work off campus. So
Hmm.
whatever jobs that you take to be a TA, a GRA, or anything on campus. So you can even be a cashier, or you can even be somebody who sits in the library and maintains a log and everything. You can do any job as long as it is on campus. After the first year, there's something called curricular practical training. That's when you can work off campus. So yeah. Hmm.
So for on campus, is there like a university website you need to go, or you need to go to the student council or some place?
There is a university. I forgot the name of the website, but they have a lot of career resources where you can look for jobs that are available on campus. But a lot of times, your own graduate coordinator will also forward you emails from time to time. So if they say the Department of Psychology is looking for a TA and they are okay with somebody from the Department of Architecture, from the School of Architecture. So they will forward an email to the School of Architecture saying that Department of Psychology is looking for something. And again, there are like many departments. So you will get a spam lot of emails looking for GAs, GRAs, TAs. You apply to all of them, and as I said before, you should definitely reach out on your own as well. Like you can find professors' emails online.
Mhm.
Reach out to them, even if it's not for the job. If you're just interested in their work, if you just want to keep in touch, shoot them an email, introduce yourself, attach your resume, and say that, hey, can I come meet you in office hours? I would like to talk to you about how I can what value I can add to some of your courses as well. So yeah, you have to do that on your own as well.
You briefly mentioned about resumes. So, are there any departments or any place because every job market has a different kind of expectation from the way you present your resume or CV.
Yeah.
So is there anything of that sort in the university where you can approach and be like, "Hey, can you just glance at my CV and let me know what changes I need to make, or is it good for this market?"
Yeah, I think all departments have that kind of resources. So UT Austin has a careers. I forgot again what it's called, but they do have a careers office where you can again book an appointment, ask them to review your CV, ask them to review your portfolio, ask them to review your cover letters, and all of those things. They will give you very valuable insights on those things. And yeah, they do have those resources. You just have to reach out.
That's great. And what are the ways one can network now? Now given this time of COVID, things
Hmm.
have been under lockdown and there was restriction. But in general, what are the networking events like? Are there anything that happens especially on the campus, or there are something like that happens off the campus with various different organizations? So how does the networking between the professionals happen?
So there are definitely a lot of events on campus as well. There are lecture series. There are webinars. If you you can there are professionals constantly coming in and out of your department. You should introduce yourself all the time. Introduce yourself. Also send them like a LinkedIn request. So I think most of my networking happened on LinkedIn. I
Okay.
had upgraded to premium and I was just stalking people left, right, and center. Okay. If I'm going to an event in Austin and I know that somebody's speaking there, I know somebody's coming there that I want to talk to,
Okay.
I will shoot a message on LinkedIn saying that, hey, I'm going to be there at the event. I would really like to come meet you, also tell you things that I've done. They're very close to what you do as well. So that is on you. That's how like a lot of things are on LinkedIn, but a lot of things are on you taking that initiative and being a little shameless. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of being out there and being.
out there. Exactly. That's the word. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, what are your tips? How do you classify yourself? Or an introvert, or you're outgoing, or in between, like selectively available? Like for me, I fall in neither of the categories. It depends on my mood. If I'm in the mood,
Hmm.
I talk. Otherwise, I'm usually just contain myself into my own cocoon. So, how do
Yeah.
you classify
Hmm.
yourself in that situation or in that sense?
I'm an extrovert. I think that worked out in favor. The fact that I can talk to people. I like talking to people. I like to know, just have a conversation, keep in touch. Sometimes, kind of follow up and say hi. So I'm just that's just who I am. I'm an extrovert, I would say.
Yeah, I think that is required when you once you're there
Yeah.
all alone, because you
Hmm.
are your own army. There's nobody working for
Hmm.
you and battling anywhere. So you have to
Yeah.
be present there and be there.
Hmm.
And in terms of
Hmm.
how has the current situation kind of impacted the job situation on ground, or is it now turning back or going to the normalcy? What's the situation now?
It is turning back. So if you know, like the COVID has impacted many industries
Mm.
more severely than other industries. So urban design, real estate, architecture, these industries are strongly impacted, especially say in April, May, when everything was in a lockdown. Now things have started opening up a little bit. There were a lot of layoffs and all of those things going on as well. Uh, but the job market is slowly opening up, really slowly. Yeah, but it is an employer's market, so there are a lot of candidates out there for the same position than there would be in normal times. So you have to really stand out to be considered.
Okay, and like, are there like the positions must have also got reduced, the kind of position being displayed online or with the ads. So now, how is the recruitment process going? Previously you could just drop into an office and keep your CV on the reception and have a word with somebody, meet them in person,
Hmm.
and do about that. But now
Hmm.
with this, it is kind of on a backseat because there are no
Hmm.
offices. And it's all on
Yeah.
online. So, what are your tips for somebody who's looking or is in this phase? How should one apply, or how should one seek opportunities now?
So I don't think I ever did that, drop into an office myself. I would generally like my approach to job search was more like going on LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, looking if there are any jobs. If there is a particular job, say in one office at a location, so I would look the project managers who work in that location. it is likely that they are the hiring managers. So you look them up on LinkedIn, see what they do, make sure that you're a good fit for the job, make sure that that you can even ask for, you can even request an informational interview. So an informational interview is not like an official one. It's just one where you want to know more about the role and see if you would like to apply or not. So
Oh,
informational interviews are really good to a new connection, to network. They can hear you out on an informal note as well, and that was a really good way. I think I did a lot of my networking on LinkedIn, but I used to cold email a lot to people, just like, hi, my name is Pooja, and she doesn't know me obviously, but I would just like write an email. Sometimes they ignore it, but sometimes they reply.
yeah.
There are really good mentors out there, and who want to help, who want to give direction to young professionals. And I've seen that a lot. I've witnessed that a lot. That was a very good way to do that.
Yeah. So, do you have, what is the advice for a student who is now thinking about coming to States for, say,
Hmm.
long-term vision with education plus employment? So, with the given changes in policies and the COVID situation, what would your
Hmm.
tip be or advice be to that person?
So, as I said, it's a very personal choice. I wouldn't really give outright advices to somebody. If United States is where they had imagined themselves to be, if there's a particular course that they really wanted to study, if that was the environment they wanted to work in,
Hmm.
go for it. But I will really advise you to be more cautious with your investments, because I mean, things could turn out anyway. Things have turned out well for people, but also really badly. So it's a judgment call. Definitely make sure that your course is STEM, which is by STEM you get three chances at the H-1B lottery. So it obviously increases your probability of staying there. So make sure that your course is STEM. Make sure that your investments are limited, and yeah, but it's a personal choice. Like, I would have still come here because the colleges are top notch, the education is top notch, the industry is top notch. You get to learn so much. The work culture is really good, and you constantly grow. So I'm not sure if it's the same everywhere. Yeah,
That's
the
good.
experience is worth it.
Yeah, the experience definitely is the experience about going overseas, living in a new culture. That is when
Hmm.
it opens up your mindset, because
Yeah.
once you have been staying into a particular society, the way you
Hmm.
think, your perspective towards solving a problem, understanding things is kind of
Hmm.
limited. And then once you
Hmm.
start meeting, mingling with new people from different cultures, that's when you realize, oh, that's another way of looking at things. So it kind of opens
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
up, broadens it up.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I guess it was really wonderful chatting to you.
Hmm.
Thank you
Yeah.
for giving a valuable time. And I'm sorry to
Thank
wake
you
you
for
up.
having me.
It was really good.
No problem. Yeah.
Although there have been two interviews about states previously, but it wasn't from the creative profession. Because in the first
Yeah. Yeah.
architectures and urban designers, it's really confusing when you look at university websites. They do not have
Hmm.
any specific rankings, or there's not that much feedback on this perspective.
Yeah.
So I because
You
this would
have to do all your research on your own.
yeah,
Like, I had received no guidance while doing it. I was following my instincts most times. I was reaching out to people on my own to get to understand what's happening. I was reaching out to ex students on my own to know about the college. It's completely like you have to do your own research. Like, nobody can tell you what how it is for the creative industry.
that's true. I think it's like a creative
Yeah.
professional, like a professional
Yeah.
is also such. You have to just go with
Exactly.
gut instincts and the
Yeah.
knowledge you kind of do with the research.
Mm.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming. Really appreciate for giving your time out. And
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be able to give some perspective on things.
the pleasure is all ours. And do have a great day ahead. And
You
take
too.
care and stay safe.
Of course.
So
You too.
hi guys, hope you like this two-part episode series for US. In this, there's a little twist for this because it was primarily focused on the creative arts, like for portfolio and how should one go about it. I hope you found some value. And if any suggestions for the kind of work I am doing with regards to anything, please make sure to mention to me down in the comment section below. I'll make sure to read it and reply to you. So please do mention down below if you like my work. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. and also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. These handles are the Student Insights Podcast. Make sure to follow me because there is certain useful links and short content that I only post on Instagram and Facebook. So there you will get more tips and tricks behind the scenes of how to go about things. Because in this episode, I usually go to the surface level of topics. I try to touch upon everything, but it's on Instagram where I'm trying to go deep into things. And you guys can also suggest to me if you have any suggestions for me, that you should make a video on this or cover this topic or cover this aspect as well. I'll make sure so next time or the next interview, I cover those points and you get value from it. So please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Do help spreading me the love as well as this word out to your peers, friends, and families so that they can benefit from it. Till then, guys, stay safe, stay happy. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.